Before anybody decides to take action of any kind, there must be two mental states present. Now, it is possible to take action without either of these two mental states, but the action taken without either of these two mental states will be frustrating, uncomfortable, and stressful. In order to take good action, forward action, self-determined action, successful action, these two mental states must be present. The first is a sense of agency. We need to feel like we are in control. Nobody does anything unless they feel like it is their choice. Nobody likes to do things if somebody is forcing them to do that thing, even if the thing they are being forced to do is something they would otherwise choose to do on their own. It is so important for us to feel a sense of agency, that we constantly reframe our opinion about what is happening around us. We constantly reframe your memory. We rewrite our memory to make sure we feel like we are always in charge of our lives. From a purely biological, neurological, scientific standpoint, we don't control anything. Our conscious mind is a watching entity. We make decisions unconsciously. We make decisions emotionally. And then we come up with a rational sounding reason. In fact, a lot of scientists believe the whole reason that we have a conscious mind is so we can continuously reframe our actions. So we believe we have agency. That's how important a feeling of agency is. Without agency, we feel like we're being pushed into a box, and we don't like that. The other necessary state is a feeling of congruence, a feeling that what we are doing is congruent or similar or familiar to the things we've done in the past. We don't like going into unfamiliar situations, because if we go into an unfamiliar situation, we need to use a lot of brain resources to figure stuff out along the way. We don't like that. So our brains evolved this huge affinity for familiar things. This is such an important idea that adults live their adult lives in misery. They keep repeating patterns over and over again because on a subconscious level, they feel familiar. We would rather do familiar things if that leads to a crappy life than be forced into an unfamiliar situation if that unfamiliar situation might even lead to a better life. Familiarity is a pure subconscious driving force. So whenever we take forward action, whenever we do something, when you feel good about doing this thing, when you take an action and you have a good idea that this action will lead to a positive outcome, a positive benefit, you have to feel, everybody has to feel these two mental states. A feeling of agency and a feeling of congruence or familiarity. The good news is you can induce these states in another person. And if you induce these two states in another person, they will do whatever you want. Because remember, we do things because of these unconscious, emotional, mental states, not because of the logical reasons up on top that we tell ourselves. If you can induce these two states in another person, they will do whatever you want, and they will come up with their own reason why they did what they just did. The reason this is so unknown to most people is because most people try to persuade through our ego. Our ego compels us to remember, to think, to believe that we are the author of our lives. So when we look at someone else that's in our reality, that is a secondary character in our lives, and we have the idea of getting them to do something that would benefit us, we have to feed this, we have to put this, we have to experience this through our ego. Our ego tells them what to do, they do it, we feel like we're in charge. We have higher hierarchical standing than they do. This is what the ego does unconsciously. This is why most people will never be able to use this technique to induce these two mental states in other people and get them to do whatever you want. But if you can temporarily turn off your ego, if you can understand your ego, if you can temporarily ignore your ego, just like if you're on a diet, you temporarily ignore your hunger because you have a bigger long game plan. Similarly, if you have a bigger long game plan to get other people to do whatever you want, you can temporarily ignore your ego instinct. So how specifically can you do this? Well, the first step is to just get people talking about what they want. Listen to them talk about what they want. Ask questions about what they want. Build out their desire map. Find out all the specific details. Restrain yourself from telling them how to get that. This is going to be difficult. This is the ego. The ego wants you to tell them what to do. Turn that off and build out their desire map. Then ask this question: why do you want that? Once they give you a reason, and this reason's not going to be the real reason, this reason's going to be a surface level, logical sounding story they tell themselves. But whenever they give you a reason, expand that reason. Because when they give you a reason as to why they want what they want, that will be building up their sense of agency, which feels really good. Then you go on to the next step, which you ask them, have you ever done anything like that before? And they'll think, and they'll tell you something, and they'll tell you a story. Or you can go meta and ask, how have you made big decisions before? It creates the same feeling of familiarity, of making a decision. And so you expand these two mental maps, their desire map, and ask them why they want what they want. And then ask them, have they ever done anything similar before? And they will give you some ideas. That will induce these two states, a feeling of agency and a feeling of familiarity, and they will do whatever you want. But this is the critical part. You don't need to do any logical flim-flam or flip-flop to connect what you want with what they want, because these two will click together just like in advertising. When we feel a strong sense of desire for the girl, we don't need to be told logically why, if we like the girl, we should like the car. They just show the two of these things at the same time, and they're connected unconsciously, automatically. The same thing will happen when you create these two states in mind. The feeling of agency and the feeling of familiarity, which will create a very positive emotional state. Then you just put your idea out there. Hey, what about this? They will see this idea. And that idea will be unconsciously connected to these two wonderful feeling states, just like we unconsciously connect the desire for the girl and the desire for the car, or whatever they're trying to sell us. This is the easiest way to persuade people, but most people will never be able to use this technique because it requires you understand your ego and manage your ego. But if you can manage to understand your ego, the process is very simple. This is the cornerstone of the persuasion sequence. The persuasion sequence is a series of questions that you ask people that put them in a fantastic decision-making mindset so they will do anything. This is something you can learn if you check out the links below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.